Would make sense that I was full build. Yeah, it would make sense. So basically, what I'm trying to test here, guys, what I'm trying to test is, last time when I tested, when the Commander rework came out, I tested it when it came out, and it was obviously, I ran full build. These are the important, of course, all the important secondary skills. I ran a full build and I compared PTS to live server. And the test was very simple. You spawn a Des Moines, you go into Ocean Test, and a Des Moines spawns next to you, and then you test how long it takes to kill. On the live server, the Des Moines, basically you should let the secondary shoot for 2 minutes, and then once the secondaries are done shooting, you turn them, or once the 2 minutes is up, you turn them off, and then you see how much secondary damage you did. That was the test I did. And obviously this was before Commander rework. The Des Moines basically always died instantly, or always died in the 2 minutes that it could fire. And then the Commander rework happened, which I criticized heavily, and secondaries were nerfed to junk. Oh, this is the current Commander skills. This is what we have right now on the live server. Suddenly, in the 2 minutes, the damage went from killing the Des Moines to, well, what you're seeing here. I always had to use my main guns to finish the Des Moines to get the kill. So that's old, before Commander rework, and this is the current setup we have now. Basically, damage plunge from always killing the Des Moines to doing this. This was my test, and the secondary damage basically plummeted, and it was junk. So now we're gonna test these new Commander skills. Why does my girlfriend have to call me right now? Kulta ei mitä. En mä tiedä, ei tarvi varmaan. Yes, the worst timing, as always. Worst timing. Right, so what do we need? Now, what would we build for full secondary build? Demolition? Probably. Chances to cause fire. IFHE? You don't really need that on Corfos. That was one of the reasons why I ran it. You have 32mm pen, so it doesn't help you in any way. This AA defense and anti-submarine warfare, that doesn't actually help our secondaries at all. None of this actually, Brisk is here now. None of this actually help my secondaries. This thing actually nerfs it, so we don't build this for sure. I guess we just build priority. It's not a modifier at all. Here's the new long range, and this is the new manual secondary battery aiming. Holy shit, the description. Gradually increases secondary gun accuracy at priority target when continuously firing at any target. Accuracy decreases if guns are used for 15 seconds or the priority target is changed. When the priority target is changed, 75% of the accumulated accuracy is preserved. I looked at the math in this, and it seemed really sketchy on how much it actually helps. Basically, theoretically, you should be able to reach pre-rework numbers, basically what you saw in the video earlier. You should be able to reach those numbers eventually. My worry is how long it'll take to actually reach those values. So we spec that. This thing no longer gives us secondary reload, so it doesn't actually benefit us at all. AR now gives us continuous AA, but doesn't actually affect, like, there's actually nothing else to spec secondary wise, is there? There's nothing that actually gives us, secondary damage, is there? I don't think there is. This is the Furious, that new garbage skill where if you're on fire, you get bonuses. No, none of the other, there's no other AA skills. This is it. These are the only skills that affect AA, or affect secondary, sorry. Potentially better than pre-rework, there was a base accuracy buff in between. Okay. Spec out of fire chance. I mean, okay, to be fair, it does affect the RNG, because you might get more fires. But is that a bad thing? Because we're going to do the test a couple of times. You didn't have it in your previous test, didn't I? Let me check. What was I running in my was I running fire chance? I was running... Let's see. I was running. Hold on. Oh yeah. No, okay, I wasn't running fire chance. You're right. I was running PM. Okay, fine. Then we're not going to spec it. You're right. We don't want to skew the results. There we go. So we build this. This is all the second. This is the exact same ones that we had in the past, and we're running the 3 million module. Then we go training battle, and we go create battle. Perfect resilience test. So the idea here is, of course, that Well, ideally, we want to be able to kill this. If it's as good as it used to be, this Des Moines should die in 2 minutes. As I turn off the secondaries, the Des Moines should die. That's the ideal situation. Then the secondaries are back to what they were pre-rework. If it takes longer than that, then they're still worse. If he's half HP by the time 2 minutes is up, then it's still as garbage as they are currently. Hopefully it's at least better than that. We'll see. No Gunther. Gunther never worked in training room anyway, so Gunther never had played any part in this. Gunther never procs in training room, so it never actually played any part in it. My worry is that the time it takes to actually build up to that buff and how garbage they are at the start is going to greatly affect the damage output. But we'll see. We'll see how it works. One should spawn right here. And we select him as a secondary target. And then we see what the secondaries do. Hopefully, it's going to be better than it used to. So the longer we build, the more pinpoint the secondary should become. Okay, 30 seconds in. We haven't really done too much. Get a fire. I'll skew a bit with the numbers, but that's fine. So now it should be scaled up. Now it's the full 45 seconds and this should be scaled up. This is like the best it can get. This is as good as secondaries can get with this. It's better than it used to be, because right now on live, if you turn it off, normally at 2 minutes when I turned it off, this guy still had half his HP left and I always had to finish him with my guns. I think the problem really is that you need to keep him locked on for the full 2 minutes, because once again, if he goes off any time between this, you're going to lose the full buff, which is going to suck. I think we might actually kill him in the 2 minutes. We still have the 22.5% buff, yeah. We might actually kill him in the 2 minutes, which is just as good as pre-rework. Well, not almost. Okay, not quite. 2 minutes is up, we turn it off. Can we get the kill in just secondaries? Almost. Actually better than I had hoped. It's not quite as good as it... Well, it seems... Obviously, there are some issues here. A couple of issues is the fact that this buff relies on keeping the guy spotted permanently all the time. If you're fighting someone who even ducks behind an island for a couple of seconds, your AA secondary power is going to go down the dumpster really quickly. But provided you can keep him lit in vision at all times, then maybe? What do we do? What do we get? We get 502 hits, 120 shell hits. How does that compare to... How does this compare to pre-rework numbers? Let's see. This is well, how much do I show the scoreboard? Yeah, here we go. It's more shell hits. It's actually Wokox, he died before that. Oh yeah, he actually died in these. That's why the guy died so quickly in this. Okay, this is, but compared to PTS, it's probably significantly better. Do I have any other examples here? Did I check the scoreboard at any other time to get a better idea? Yeah, okay, so he always died at about 460. Fire do affect, but 120 hits is, well, it seems about average. On PTS, of course, it was, this PTS is the current live server, so that was much worse. So it has actually improved so far, because I always had to finish him off with significant amounts of damage. Like the accuracy right now, this is the accuracy we have right now, and it was basically complete garbage. I'm shooting a lot more shells though. which is worrying. Why am I shooting so many more shells? I'm shooting over 500 shells, whereas I was shooting 460 shells here. Was I not running the 3 million reload in the old test? Or why am I shooting so many more shells? Or is it because I have built-in 10% reload somewhere? I feel like I'm shooting extra. Yeah, it's the built-in BFT in the new skill. That's possible, but in the old skill I was running... Look, the old build I was running also had 10% reload. The old skill I was running Look, I was running this skill, which gave you 10% secondaries. I was running the 10% secondaries from here. So I should have the same DPM, or same amount of shells fired. I wonder if it's because I'm running the 3 million upgrade and I wasn't running it there. I think I'm running the 3 million upgrade I wasn't running before, because if I shot 400 and if I if I break 500 shells, and last time I couldn't even, I got about 460, then it seems a bit weird. And this gives you what? Minus 20? I don't think it would be that bad. Let's try it one more time. Shit. Do I actually mention if I'm running the build or not? I actually mention if I'm running the build or not. That's the question. What do I say? Dispersion was by 60-65%. Basically, it was almost twice as good. Only fire on that guy, and it was good. Secondary found that the secondary builds on the Germans have become absolute garbage. Your secondaries can. Yeah, this is. Do I mention the build? Running. Have significantly better dispersion than German secondaries. What I'm showing you right now is a very simple test. This is on the live server, on the current server. This is a full... Okay, is it about to start? Yeah, this one is about to start. 1 second. Double Flamu. No, I just want to select this guy so I can go look at the video and get an idea. I don't know why I would have 40 more shell hits now than before, because there shouldn't be anything affecting it. Going from 460 to about 500 shell hits, or 500 shells fired, it's not a big increase, but it's roughly 10%. And I'm quite wondering where I get 10% from. You say full secondaries, I'm guessing the 3 million. Right, it makes sense. Because if I remove the 3 million upgrade, I lose 20%. And that's a bit too much. Losing 20% is too much. Thank you, Nick Cage, for the 12. Have they changed the reload at any point on these guns? It's much better than it is live, right now on live though. It's significantly better than it is right now on live. There's a fair bit of requirements to make it this good though. Mostly you have to keep them perma-spotted and within your second... You have to keep someone not just spotted but also in your secondary range for the full duration in order to get the effectiveness. So it's still worse than what it used to be, but at full strength, when these basically get the absolutely optimal situation, these things seem quite powerful. I think I'm gonna kill him this time. Almost, yeah, 20 seconds remaining. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna kill him this time. So this is in an ideal condition, yeah, we're gonna kill him with 10 seconds to spare maybe. That is much better than what we have now. Yeah, with 10 seconds to spare, we're gonna kill him. So that is much better than we have right now on live. It is much better than what we have right now on live. I'm not sure, it's not as good as it used to be, mostly because this skill is so... Oh yeah, see, this time it was only 454, 108. But much better than it used to be. And considering the point investment in order to make this work isn't really that bad. I mean, I am running 3 milli module, which perhaps you wouldn't normally run. But in terms of points, I'm running only long range and only the manual sec. Maximum dispersion of secondary battery shells fired at priority target -50. It takes 45 seconds to build up to it. That's a really long time. The reason why this is obviously worse than what we used to have is if a DD pops up around the corner and rushes you, or if a DD hits radared or hydrated or something nearby and he starts sailing away from you, you don't have 45 seconds to wait for your secondaries to actually be useful. Normally you get like maybe max 20 seconds, ideally, of secondary time on him. So obviously in those situations this skill is gonna suck, but in the ideal situations, 1 versus 1 against another battleship where you can just keep him in secondary range and keep farming him, it's basically as good as it used to be before the commander rework. It doesn't mention that it resets after 10 seconds. Your accuracy decreases if guns aren't used for 15 seconds or the priority target is changed. Decreases. They mentioned this in detail how it works, but the drop-off was significant. I think it was 10% and you lost the majority, or 10 seconds and you lost the majority of the bonus. Isn't that how it worked? Where was the description actually on this? Let's see, dev blog. Well, here it changes the commander skills. Okay, loading very slowly. Here it is, super task. Blah, blah. Okay, I think they went into frequently asked questions. Okay, here it is. Here is the detail. 25. How will the bonus to accuracy? 25% from the effect will accumulate in the first 10 seconds of a continuous secondary battery firing. So you bump up to what, 35% in the first 10 seconds, which is what we have right now on live. But then in the remaining 35, you basically build up to what we used to have before this terrible commander rework. So thus a 35% bonus to the accuracy on the priority target the skill you used to give before the change will get accumulated in the first 10 seconds. Yeah, exactly. 25, yeah, it builds up. The bonus will reset gradually from 100% of the accumulated bonus 0 in 10 seconds. Wait, oh yeah, it resets. Wait, they say it resets from 100 to 0 in 10 seconds. Jesus, so it takes 45 to build up. But did they change this? Because I felt like the skill said something different. The skill says accuracy decreases, guns aren't used for 15 seconds. Okay, so what they mean when they say accuracy decreases, guns aren't used for 15 seconds means that if you're 15 seconds without shooting your secondaries, you're down to 0. That's what they're trying to say. That's actually pretty terrible. So if you go 15 seconds behind an island, the secondary guy is back to junk secondaries. False? What do you mean false? Elaborate. Accuracy decreases if guns aren't used for 15 seconds. Or does it make, or do they mean after 15 seconds if you're still not firing, then it drops off and then it drops off in 10 seconds. So for a total of 25? Is that what they mean? 15 seconds without firing, it stays at max, then over 10 seconds it decreases. Ah, that's what they mean. That's what they mean. So as long as you find it, as long as you can shoot at someone within 15 seconds, you keep it. But then if you can't, then you in 10 seconds you go back to 0. Okay, so that's the way it works. Dude, I can't believe that they still don't show us. They don't show us when the buffs are active. This was an issue even back in Deadeye. And with all these other skills, they still don't show when skills are active and at what percentage they are and how effective. Like, where are our tooltips? So, accuracy decreases if guns aren't used for 15 second priority. When the priority target is changed, 70.5% of the accumulated accuracy is preserved. Fair enough. So really the ideal situation is you're fighting someone and a DD or a cruiser pops up and you switch priority target to him, and then you already have a huge buff to your accuracy, and then you kind of build it up as you fight him. So really these are at the worst at the start, but the more you engage, the better they become. So the fundamental issue now is, where's our survivability? They haven't really given us any new survivability, have they? They have not. Well, the bright side is you can build secondary, and you can still build stuff like this. Shit, if you got a 21-point captain, you can mix in AR as well. That's a pretty solid build, to be fair. Super Bubis had a meter to know where you were at the bonus. Why not have a meter for this? That's a good question. That's something they really should include. But ideally, repair party consumable reload has 0.5%. Proves the efficiency of consumables each time your ship receives potential damage equal to 100% of the ship's base HP. This is so junk though. This is so garbage. This is one of those. This is one of the new skills. This one is just fundamentally terrible. If your ship has 100k health, in order to get one stack of this, you have to get 100k potential damage. If, let's say, ideally you get, you take 1,000,000 potential damage, so you get 10 stacks of improved repair party readiness. If you get 10 stacks, then you gain 5% of repair. Oh, no, actually, it didn't even work like that. They stacked on top of each other, didn't they? So 1,000,000 wasn't even 5%. 1,000,000 was less. Because it reduces, first it reduces 0.5% and then it reduces 0.5% of the already reduced number. So that's why it actually ended up being even worse. So it's actually really, really bad. Really, really bad. We can test it. Can I get someone in the training room to like smash? Actually, I can just put a bot to smash my ship a bit. Let's see. Let's create battle. That's bot is moving, bot is armed, AI medium, and sure, 2 Des Moines spamming me. 1,000,000 is 5%. Conway's co-host mentioned at 2,000,000 you get 10% on stream. Okay, let's see if that's true then. So right now my cooldown is 76 seconds. I'm running the flag. That's why it's 76 seconds. I have to farm potential, don't I? I have to farm potential. Would that damage secondaries? No, my secondaries are disabled now. I'm not testing secondaries, I'm testing this, the healing skill. I already tested secondaries. Secondaries are much better than they are right now on live, which is very much a positive. I wouldn't say they're quite as good as they used to be, but they're getting pretty close. When they are basically at default state, they're pretty bad, but when they are, you have fully built up the bonus, the secondaries are even better than they used to be. I should have added Minotaurs, actually. You're right. Minotaurs build up this so fast. Yeah, no fires to fucking screw you. You're right. You're right. I should have gone. You're right. You're right. Let's add a bunch of Minotaurs. That's a good idea. It's gonna take ages otherwise. I'm in your training room if you need anything to start with. Are you grumbling, Toby? Well, I think I'm okay. I'm just gonna add a bunch of Minotaurs. I think I'm fine. Just set them to not moving. Oh, that would have been a good idea. Does it matter though? I don't think in... Do they even move in this room? You're gonna die really fast. Am I though? I'm just gonna try reversing. reversing straight up. But I mean, isn't this the ideal situation where the skill would be most useful? You're under tremendous pressure and you need heals fast to come off cooldown.
Action stations.
Yeah, they do move. Okay. Okay, so at the million, it should be. Oh yeah, you can see it actually in live updating. This is of course ideal situations. We started at what, 76. We're at 1.6 million. Look how little it's giving me now. So in an absolute ideal state where you have 2 million potential. Wait, I'm not even 10 seconds yet. 2.5 still not 10 seconds. 2.8 still not 10 seconds. 3 million. 3 million to get to 10 seconds on the buff. 3 million to get to 10 seconds on the buff. Yeah, the diminishing returns are very much there. The problem is, this is a consumable that runs out. And you're spending 3 points to get it. This is like, how many games do you have with 5 million potential? So you get 10 seconds provided you have a monster game where you get 3 million potential. And by the time you reach 3 million potential in a battleship, you're probably not going to have many heals remaining to begin with. So it's basically pretty junk. It's straight up pretty junk. It isn't flat out 5% for each million. No, whatever they said was a lie. Or wait, how much does it add? 76, and we got 3 million, and it was 66. No, does it add up? Not really, no. Actually, it might get pretty close to it. It might get pretty close. It was 10%, was 7.6 off, which was close at 2 million. Yes. But I mean, it's still gonna be basically terrible. Still gonna be pretty much terrible. I don't see any ship I would ever run that on, because you got to remember the faster you reload, the smaller the bonus, because it's percentage based. So I got 10 seconds on the core force with 3 million, but on an Ohio, I would be getting half of that, because his cooldown is half. He has, instead of 80 seconds, he's got a 40-second cooldown. So on an Ohio, for example, that has a 40-second cooldown on the heal, I would be getting a 5-second faster heal for 3 million potential and 3 captain points. That's pretty terrible. The 5% is correct, I think. The 5% is correct. It doesn't scale off like we thought it did. But it's still pretty terrible. That still means that skill is pretty terrible. If you gained an extra heal from it or something, it would be better. But the fundamental issue really is, by the time you reach 3 million, where you get that, let's say, the full 10 seconds on one of these, where it actually matters, you don't have any heals left. So yeah, I probably would be, instead of speccing this like basics, just 15% fire and flooding damage, or just AR. Like, there's so many options now. Why would I choose this one? Yeah, no. I like the idea that they're finally going for some sort of rewarding potential damage, but the skill still isn't good. The skill still isn't good. It's just bad. More healing for each stack or something would be more interesting, probably. No, I still don't see this being mixed in. Like, it's, you have so many captain points that it's competing with. I know. It just doesn't give the survivability or the damage like these two. No, that skill is still. I agree. That skill is still junk. So the secondary skill is actually pretty good. It's not quite what we had before, before the commander rework, but it's getting close to there, especially if you can keep them targeted, then it's quite strong. But this skill is trash, still complete trash. Brisk, or sorry, Furious, I don't know if I even want to test this thing. I just think this is terrible. Like, this thing is just objectively terrible. 5% reload and 5% fires, or 5% dispersion for each fire. Like, 10%, the biggest HE spammers in the game are cruisers and DDs. Nerfing their dispersion by 10% isn't gonna affect them much at all. And 10% reload when you got 2 fires on your ship is like, well, I'd rather just not have the reload or the fires, but I'd go from what, 29 seconds to 26. It's 26.1. It's yeah, the secondaries after 45 seconds are objectively better than they were before. Yeah, that's what I mean. If you have the full buff, these things are better than they used to be. In the time for it to build up, they're pretty terrible, but once they built up, they're quite strong. But no, Furious, I mean, you gotta consider what Furious is competing with now. It's competing with Mansec, which used to be irrelevant, but it's actually quite good now. And more importantly, it's competing with these 3 survivability skills. And all of these 3 skills give you better survivability than Furious. Like, even Thunder has battle cruiser dispersion. 10% on a battleship, he's still gonna smash it. I'm not seeing it. I'm really not seeing it. This one just seems trash. If you're being burned down, the problem is you need more survivability. You don't need 10% more damage. I can't see this. I can't see taking this over almost any other 4-pointer. Seems very, very bad. So out of the new skills, really, this on battleships, manual secondaries is the best update. The rest seem really eh. What else did they change? AR gives you continuous AA and airstrike armament reload. That's good for the depth charges. Anything other important? Not really. They haven't changed much else. What did they change on the other ships? The submarines are here. What did they change on destroyers? They didn't change anything significant. I don't think they changed much on destroyers. Vigilance got changed on battleship. What did they change on it? Oh yeah, that's actually pretty interesting now. You're right. Vigilance. Vigilance no longer complete junk. It's actually pretty impressive. Let's see. Is it raw? Is it flat? It's flat. It's flat 7%. That's a pretty strong perk now. That's a pretty strong perk for sure. That also means you can get some really absurd values on the Americans that already have 50 something. Because for them it's really big. Because the damage reduction becomes quite significant for them. So this thing is quite strong. Yeah, and Kremlin as well. I mean, what can you actually build on Kremlin now? Let me unlock Kremlin real fast. I'm curious now. Or Yamato. Yamato also can get really strong torpedo belt protection now. Obviously, ideally you don't want to eat torpedoes, but I think Kremlin really is the one where I would see it the most useful, because in the Kremlin, how often do you get torped in a Yamato? Whereas Kremlin often pushes in. That's kind of the Kremlin's role, so it's forced to push in. I could see it actually being quite strong on the Kremlin. Because Kremlin is so tanky against HE, AP, and it also has a good torpedo belt. Pretty good ship, by the way. So if I spec this, it gives us a bit of... We're now at what, 46? That's the max we can get from builds, right? There's nothing else that gives torpedo protection, no. So you're gonna get 46. And you can get 53, I assume? So then you'd go... Jesus. You don't need a turret traverse, so it competes with vigilance, really. Dude, you can get so tanky on this thing now. If you give up concealment, then you can go. You can actually become so goddamn tanky in the Kremlin now. Holy shit. It's actually recommended, not surprising. You gotta remember, this thing doesn't just give you the 7%, it also gives you plus 25% acquisition range. They combine them both. So the new Vigilance is actually a viable choice, I think, on some ships. That's quite a bit of a reduction. Holland torpedoes won't do much now. So that's pretty good. That's actually pretty good. Okay, what else? What else have they changed? Cruisers. What did they change on cruisers, boys? They just added a bunch of submarine to many of them. Did they change anything else, really? I don't think so. They changed pirate execution, expert A, outnumbered. Oh, outnumbered. What's the new outnumbered? Oh, that's actually interesting. You're right. Improved vigilance. Shit, is that suddenly actually worth having on the Germans? New outnumbered. We're gonna check that. Web service unavailable. Shit, I wonder what kind of improved vigilance the Germans get. Because I remember running that on stuff like Scharnhorst and Gneisenau because they didn't have hydro. So I ran the improved vigilance, which was 35%. But now if you can run that plus a better torpedo belt on ships that already want to brawl, that could be quite good. That could actually be quite good. Ricardo, thank you for the 31. Outnumbered. Okay, so how did this change? How did they change this? Improves your ship's characteristic. The number of allies within the firing range of your ship's main battery doesn't exceed. Okay, they changed that. Doesn't exceed the number of visible enemy ships. So in the past you had to be more. Now it's fine to be equal. Oh, your ship is not counted as an allied ship. Whoa. Okay, that's pretty important. So now if you're 2 on a flank and 2 enemy ships, it's fine. Wait, can it also be... You can have 1 enemy and then 1 ally, in fact. Wait, you can actually outnumber them and still have the buff. So you can outnumber the enemy and still have the buff because your own ship doesn't counter. You can be 2 versus 1. So if it's you and a battleship versus an enemy battleship, this skill will activate because you don't count as an ally, and as long as they don't exceed the number of visible enemy ships. So outnumber now means you can be the one outnumbered, or you can outnumber the enemy. Okay, that skill name literally makes even less sense than it did before. So this one can activate very easily now. So what does it give us? Maximum dispersion, minus 10%, ship speed 8%. It's significantly easier to activate now. It no longer requires you to be in terrible position. In fact, it has a fair, easy way of activating it. Speed and dispersion. How good would this be on something like Henry? I don't know. Nose in DM? No, not really. You want top grade gunner more. Georgia with boost? Well, Georgia definitively plays like a cruiser. It's still a battleship. Atago Henry could be pretty okay. Triple dispersion Zhao. Pinpoint accuracy. Oh, so it's 35 and 7 on the improved German captains. Thank you. That's pretty strong, actually. I wonder, like, Azuma and Yoshino. Those are 2 ships I could see maybe that would like this skill. And maybe Ibuki as well. Because these are ships that sit really far back. And you want speed and you want dispersion. I could see it on them. Petro, no, stuff like Petro you just want top grade on. Petro, Des Moines, all of them you want top grade on. But maybe. I'm not writing the skill off anymore. Because it used to be complete junk, but the fact that they... First, in the past, the enemy ships needed to outnumber you, which was a really poor... And you counted as a ship. But now, it can be an equal amount and you no longer count. Which means you can literally outnumber the enemy. Because you don't count. So... suddenly... On the kiting flank, like for kiting ships, like Henry's, Yoshinos, Azumas, Zhao's, Ibukis, Maybe that Zhao Zhao doesn't really need the dispersion, but on the rest, it might not be bad. I think especially Azuma and Yoshino are gonna like this skill because you gotta remember they don't have cruiser dispersion, they have battle cruiser dispersion. And minus 10% max dispersion is literally deadeye for battle cruisers. And that's quite significant. That's quite significant for the poor dispersion on those ships. So I could see Yoshino, Azuma and such liking this one. It does require the enemies to be visible though. Yes, it's true. It still has that requirement. So it won't work if you're alone on a flank. You need someone to spot for you and obviously... but still, that guy only really needs to spot one ship and the skill will activate. So it can have more activations. Azuma has improved battlecruiser dispersion? Yes. Could you see that on Petro? No. Petro wants so many other things. How are you gonna afford this on a Petro? On Petro, you want upgrade, you want conceal, you want the AP skill, you want this. Now we're already at 20 points. How the hell are you gonna mix this into there? No way. No way. This is like standard Alaska, Petro, Stalingrad build. But Yoshino's and Azuma's and such, I could absolutely see outnumbered being viable. Yoshino has big range. Yeah, the biggest issue really is this guy. I think I need to test this at this point. It's hard really now to call because the problem is, of course, ships that I said that might like it, like Henry's and Yoshino's and Azuma's, they have insane range. So you still have to position pretty far away from your team to get the activation, which might not be easy. I also hate that Wargaming doesn't show you if a skill is activated or not because you don't have tooltips yet. So Venezia, potentially. Venezia has pretty good dispersion already though. Still, speed is pretty nice on the Venezia as well. 1DD, 1 Nevsky flank and stuff like that, potentially. But Nevsky also likes having top grade, because top grade synergizes so well with Soviet radar. You're 12 km radar, you're probably in spotting range, and then you get extra DPM during the radar. It's, I don't know. It's still, this skill has gone from complete junk to actually interesting. So good change on that one. Good change on that one. What else did they change? What else did they change on these skills? DDs didn't get any changes, right? Goliath might like it as well, potentially. Goliath, I'm not sure if he wants the skill though. What else? As cruisers, these are just airstrike armament. They just added a bunch of anti-submarine to most of the skills. They didn't change much. Yeah, the AA skills got, yeah, I know, they got airstrike armament reload and airstrike depth charge and depth charge damage. Like, they just added ASW to this, so that doesn't really change much. DD's got the same thing, doesn't really change much. I don't think there were too many other changes, were there? Pyro got buffed basically on all of them. What they did was they increased 15% splash if you take this skill, and HE and SEP splash is what kills submarines. It's a splash damage, so they made it easier to slap subs if you spec the skill. 15% is actually quite a bit, so we'll see how useful this is. It might become a thing to spec demo just to be able to shoot subs easier. It's could be significant. We'll have something that needs to be tested before we can say anything clear on it. The problem with outnumbered, yeah, no, Gnex, that's exactly what I meant. The problem with the ships that like outnumbered are also the ships that have absurd range, which is obviously a problem because a lot of allies are going to be within your range. Subs, did they change anything on the subs? AR still 4 points. No, skills look the same for subs. They're still really weird. They're still really weird. A lot of them must do A, B, C to work. We'll get into the submarine skills at some other point. I think I need to make a separate guide on them. Need to test them more, to be fair.